Now, Maritime and Dock Workers Union has called for the immediate review of the Tema port expansion project contract to ensure that the country is not shortchanged. The Build, Operate and Transfer Project Agreement, according to the MDU, did not go through competitive bidding before it was forwarded to Parliament for ratification due to unwarranted political interferences. In an interview with Joy Business, the General Secretary of the union, Daniel Cranting, also disclosed that over 1,400 workers are likely to go home.
It's a very good project with a bad contract. And that is what I want to say. It's not as if it's a bad project. In fact, it has been part of the master plan of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Tema Port, for a very long time. And that we have such a world-class project should be something that should be good for the business, the container business for Ghana. Having said so, there are very serious issues with the project. The concession agreement is bad, the processes are flawed, and we have embedded in the concession agreement some provisions that if we don't change them, Ghana will be shortchanged. We will lose, massive. There will be massive job losses for Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and then also for other operators that have been doing businesses in the port. It's like, if we implement the project, then you are getting involved in a zero-sum game, where if MPS wins, all other people will lose, and that is what we have a problem with, and that is why we are asking for a renegotiation of the concession agreement, and not that the project must be abrogated. The project, as I've said, is good, but the deal, the contract, the concession agreement is so bad. It doesn't serve national interest. It doesn't also help in creating job loss, it doesn't help in job creation, and that is why we have problems. Somebody will ask, why now?
Yeah, because I was just going to ask you that, why now, one, and what exactly beyond job losses, which you as a union probably you are concerned about, what other fine details do you think that must be looked at again?
Okay, the issue of why now, I'll address that in the sense that let me be very frank, that if you are a union and you are speaking, you should speak from a position of knowledge. You should speak from a position of deep understanding of what the situation is. And looking at the way contracts are, we contract agreements, it is not very easy to come across the details of a certain concession agreement. And that is one issue. So sometimes we have a problem with transparency, and it's not very easy to get the issues coming out clearly.
All right, so we'd like to stay on this issue some more time on it. And joining me for the discussion is Norvan, my colleague Norvan Akwaheford of Joy Business. Norvan, welcome to the marketplace.
Thank you.
So what more can you tell us about this deal, and why is this deal stinking, according to the General Secretary of the MDU?
Okay, so what Daniel Cranting was talking about is the fact that, look, listen, initially the project cost was 1.5 billion. Now it was amended, it was reevaluated, and the cost came to 1.1. Now, when the cost of the project came to 1.1, interestingly, the concessions or the tax waivers that were given to the company, which is the MPH, or the Meridian Port Holdings, a company that was formed to be able to take this contract, was over $800 million. What more are you getting as a nation? Two, one other thing that was interesting, and I'm sure that Mr. Cranting, in the interview I had with him, did indicate that. He said, listen, even the MPS was not part, or the MPH was not part of the initial companies that bid for the contract. That was a very interesting thing. And if you look at some of the things, you'd be amazed. If they were not part, how did they get in there? That is what he refers to, the political interference. Okay. There was political interference at the point where they were in the process. The bidding process was going on, the selection process was going on. Then they had to, stop this particular process, and then they were told to just give the contract to these people. Now,
was there a committee in place, to oversee, this particular, or this whole exercise of giving out the contract to a particular bidder or successful bidder?
Yes, GPHA, as for and on behalf of government, was undertaking this process until we're told that it just took a phone call that they should stop the process they were going through. Initially, they had over 60 companies show interest. They scaled it down to about 20, and the process was ongoing, and then they were stopped.
Who? Phone call from who?
Well, we are told that this phone call came from the government side. Don't forget that this concession agreement was entered into somewhere 17th of August 2015, the 12th of June 2015, and it's amazing what you see. But this is what happened. Now we've been able to get hold of a document, which is when this government took office, and the economic management team put together, a team to also take a second look, because then the government had been petitioned. The Akufo-Addo government had been petitioned to look at it, because you see, this was also going to lead to job losses. Now, all the container business within the port on the 1st of June this year, when the first phase of the Tema port expansion project comes alive, is going to be moving to this particular MPS people. And don't forget that the GPHA itself has some businesses in terms of the container business that they do, not to talk of all the other companies that you have around the ports as well.
So what documents you have, and what is
now? This is the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. It says the Ministerial Committee report is supposed to be a confidential document, but we've been able to get a copy of it, and this is the final agreement. I'm just going to read to you some bits and pieces, just in the summary. It says a committee under the chairmanship of the Honorable Deputy Minister of Transport and Member of Parliament for Tema East Constituency, Daniel Ni Kwate Titus Glover, was appointed on the instruction of His Excellency the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and the economic management team to assist the Ghana Ports and Authority to review several documents relating to the concession contracts between GPHA and Meridian Port Services Limited, that's the MPS. The review exercise covered all relevant engagement related to the container terminal operations at the Tema port from August 2004 to date. So these were the things that they were supposed to do. These are the terms of reference for this committee. The shareholders agreement and structure of the Meridian Port Services, the International Finance Corporation, that's IFS loan related agreement for the Tema Port expansion project, the main concession agreement of 2004 and its deed of amendment in 2015, and then the waiver taxes, import duties that were given. In summary, just listen to what they said. They said, in summary, it is the committee's considered opinion that all agreement, waivers of taxes and related protocols must be promptly and comprehensively reviewed and rationalized to safeguard the interests of GPHA and the Republic of Ghana. The proposed review may take any form, ranging from amicable settlement via good faith renegotiations of several contractual provisions to the issuance of explicit directives by government where relevant and appropriate.
Okay, so when was this committee, formed, and what were the terms of reference? And
this committee was formed in 2017. Their work was done in March 2018.
Okay,
that's when they completed this work.
And why have we not seen action on the outcome of
that? Is the question that officials within government will have to answer and tell us why their own committee recommends that there should be some form of either renegotiation of the whole contract or find other means of dealing. And when you go into this, you'll be amazed some of the options. And I'm sure that subsequently we'll be going through details as far as this particular document is concerned.
Now, one thing that also beats my mind is that this contract is ongoing. It started, is nearing completion. Now, if they abrogate the contract, what is going to happen at this stage?
What will happen is that on 1st June, if nothing is done, we are starting with over 1,400 jobs that will be lost. Okay. Now GPHA's business, in terms of revenues that they get, currently they are over $150 million that they get from the container business that they do yearly. Now, what is going to do initially at the first phase is for them to lose over 100 million of it initially. So it tells you that across board, this contract and per what we are seeing government is being shortchanged, GPHA is being pushed in. I mean, there are issues with shares, the shares that were diluted, shares that were supposed to go to GPHA. Initially, they should have about 30%. It was diluted and all that, and which makes it reduced to whatever levels. And I think that we need to go into this, really understand what is going on as far as this whole contract is concerned.
So at this time, are we towing the line of the MDU, which is the best option now available to actually get value for our money?
Well, the government itself will have to take their own committee's report and then begin to implement what it is that they have to implement. Because your own committee has recommended that one of the first things is for you to look at the contract again and renegotiate. And these are committee members that the government itself put together. And after that review, and after they had perused all the documents, listened to all the sides as far as the GPHA, the MPS, looked at all the things that were going on, they said, we need to look at this if we are not going to be shortchanged.
Are we not heading towards a judgment debt if we go ahead to, at this point, abrogate the contract?
From where I sit, I mean, I don't think that is an issue of judgment debt. I mean, we saw, Ameri renegotiated. So to ask for renegotiation, they're not saying abrogate the contract. And even the MDU themselves, I mean, if you listen to Current, he said it's a good, project. But the contract is what we need to look at. So if they're saying that let's take a look at a contract, it's a different ballgame. It's not the project. And they're not saying let's abrogate the process. Let's look at the figures again.
Let's kick out MPS.
Nobody's saying that they should be kicked out. All they're saying is let's take a look at it, because if we're going to lose jobs, what can we do? It's also partly because the MPS itself has its own staff members. Okay? So what is going to happen is by June, when all the other companies are going to be out of business, including even GPHA having to ask staff to go home, what will happen? What will happen is that those staff will go home, they're not going to be taken on. But if you can run that seamless process where, okay, if you are taking over my job, then you may have to take over the staff as well. It's better that way. All these kind of arrangements can be done. And then let's look at the cost to it. What are the shares that GPHA must be holding? I'm sure that you heard of the story somewhere in 2018, I think somewhere in June, August, September, about, MPS and GPHA being at each other's throat. Why? Because over shares in, as far as, this particular project is concerned. You understand? It's supposed to be a BOT project. That's build, operate, and transfer. How many years are we supposed to give the project to these people? Initially, it was around 20 something years. We're told that they went for some renewal and extension for it, even when the project itself had not come alive as it should be. So all these things, are spelled out in this particular document that we'll be looking at, and then, make sure that our viewers,
do you think there
get
more
to
investigation to actually ascertain who took halt before this contract was
well, for me, that is the job that the this ministerial committee that were sanctioned by the management committee have done. And we think that the management, the committee should be able to look at their own ministerial committee's report, which was led by Titus Glover, who is the Deputy Minister of Transport. Remember that this particular the ports is under the Transport Ministry, and they should be able to take a look at it and deal with it.
I really hope you do some more follow-ups on this, so that we get, we bring finality to whatever has to be done, so that we don't lose or we don't get shortchanged, like you said, in this regard.
I'm sure that we'll be engaging the Transport Ministry themselves on this particular issue, and then our viewers will definitely.
All right, many thanks for your time. Norman Akwa Hayford is my colleague right here at Joy Business. We've been talking about the Maritime Dock Workers Unions insisting that the contract given to the Maritime Port Services be abrogated for the Tema Expansion West project.